Hi, and welcome back to Old School. So, this is the season one finale, and I just wanted to just kind of come on here and talk from the heart about how I think it went. And I would love to hear if any of you feel differently. But it has been quite a journey. I have jokingly referred to both my writing and podcast journey as riding a roller coaster in a tornado. There have just been some exhilarating moments and some terrifying moments, but once I got going, I have had a blast with this. I have met some of the most genuine, transparent, awesome people and had great engagement from each of you and your reception of them for some of you who came on board because of them. So you're like my guest family or friends or circle of influence, and you've taken me in to your circle and listened to the podcast. And I've had some folks reach out and talk to me about what they thought of the episodes and how I happened to run them. And so I'm using all of that for some great feedback going forward. This episode is going to air the end of May, and then my season 2 will start in June. I want to thank those of you who subscribed, those of you who've given a rate or review. I would love to implore any of you to continue that or go to the platforms if you didn't in the first place, because all of that increases the likelihood of somebody searching for me and finding me. I've had 26 episodes, so I do an episode twice a month, and I go the whole year right now. That may change in the future, but for right now, I feel comfortable with that. I wouldn't have the time for every week. So I want to kind of think and highlight the folks that got the most views and the most engagement. My first guest was my writing coach, Bob Goff. His episode is the most watched and had the most engagement, I'd like to think. Although I do have one a little later that did rival that for sure.
Most of us do live very distracted lives. I'm one of them. And so when you write books, you kind of write the book that you need. And so it was a really great experience for me to say, how can I move from this very distracted life I live on purpose? It's like I take calls from people. I have all the things that happen to you, that happen to your listeners. But how can I bring some focus about that? And so that was the idea of the book. And what I try to do is just tease out in different stories and different things, like a context. How do you get less distracted by work? Some of us have jobs that we've outgrown. And how can we get less distracted by changing jobs or relationships that are tricky? How do you just navigate the tricky ones?
So Bob's episode was awesome. The next one was Jessica Peck, Dr. Nurse Mama. She was fabulous. She has been on national television and radio and before Congress, and was willing to take some time because we had connected on social media and come on the podcast, and was a really great episode. I highly recommend getting her book, Behind Closed Doors, about relating and working with our teenagers and understanding them. It was really an excellent episode.
People are afraid of their kid being kidnapped by a trafficker off the street, but that's almost never how it happens. I won't say never because it does happen, but it's very uncommon. It happens in upstream risk factors like social media use and mental health and divorce. I mean, all of these things that cause disruption in a kid's life just create vulnerabilities that traffickers are looking to exploit upon. Someone recently asked, is it your life's work to help children who have been trafficked? And I said, no, it's my life's work to prevent any child from ever being trafficked. That's what we want to see. And it's really important for people to get factual information about it, because it is so horrifying and we can be afraid of the wrong thing. And so I would encourage people you can check out my whole podcast. It's called the Dr. Nurse Mama podcast. If you're listening, you can go there and get links for online free training for parents, for school professionals, for healthcare professionals, for law enforcement. We have free online training available on demand. That's through Unbound Houston. That's the organization I work with here in Houston.
The next most viewed, at least from the audio platform standpoint, was Tracy Wells. She is a dear friend, but also the QB of my Fantasy Me team. For those of you who have followed me, I have a team of people who take care of me, and I call them the Fantasy Me team, like a fantasy football team. And she's the QB, and it was a lovely, raw conversation between friends, and that went very well as well. What would be something that you would truly want someone coming up, if they would take the 2 seconds to listen to you, to know?
Yeah, I would say like being able to accept taking just the next great step in life. So you're gonna come against different kinds of conflicts in life and different levels of conflict throughout life. And no matter where you're at, you're gonna hit something that's it's gonna make you you're gonna freeze for a second. And there's gonna be moments where you don't know what you're doing and you don't know where to go or how to do it. And I think oftentimes like our brain just naturally just wants to race to like when we're over it and like how we're gonna feel when we get there and how it's gonna be so much better like when I just get past this. All you have to control is the next right step, you know? And I think ultimately we always know what that right step is, right? Like we know, like sometimes that next right step is to just be there, just be present, be authentic with it, and just getting comfortable with it.
Then next, a daughter of a dear friend, and she's also a dear friend, Isabella Lafferty. She has started her own online interior design studio, and she is just a precious young lady. And her episodes have done very well in regard to views and a good reach for a younger audience. Although all of my guests, I don't feel like any of them are in a box in regard to the subject matter of their story or their books.
When I first started, my rookie movement, my clothing brand, I just wanted to, make as much money as possible. Life is about so much more. So I wish somebody would have kind of told me in that state that, you're not necessarily going to be happy if you're just meeting all these celebrities and doing these, things that look great. If I could just tell myself that when I was starting my first business, that, okay, why are you starting this? Why are you starting this? Are you starting it to help people? Are you starting it to, fill some sort of need in the market? I feel like that would have been good to know. But then again, you have to go through a lot to get to the place where you're just wanting to realize what happiness is.
The last one, I just wanted to cover like 4 or 5 that were at, the top and as far as highlights, but I do absolutely love every single guest I've had. I've loved the engagement, and I do consider all of them a friend at whatever level you can be through just social media, but a friend. They reach out, they support me in my posts, in the podcast, and in other areas. Some of them have even had me on theirs, which will be coming up, releases. So it's really just been a treasure. The 5th one was Jake Thomas. He has a coaching business, Life Like Jake. He is just transparent and raw and vulnerable. And his story, a little snippet of it, was on social media. And I reached out because I wanted him to understand that it was making a difference. And we connected. He heard some of my story, and he was willing to come on the podcast. And you can find that episode. Really just great for someone who's trying to make some changes and some things that may even be addictive or, just really impacting your well-being in every area, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, which is dear to my heart for the podcast, but also in my writing.
Parallel of familiarity is what I'd call it. It's taking something that I know well, taking things that I have in the form of skill set or just understandings and applying them where I see fit. based on my needs. And it's the same strategy that I've used for work, be it real estate. Have no idea what I'm doing in real estate, never sold or studied or otherwise. And one day I just said, hey, I'm going to leave my great salary position at big, huge fashion house with great benefits, awesome career path, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just going to go off into this 1099 independent contractor world because people said I could do it. Yeah. But applied the same thing there. Success. Left, came back, applied the same thing again. Success. Leaving real estate because coaching is now full-time, taking over my life, paying for everything, supporting me, making me happy, comfortable, feeling wholesome. Apply the same thing there. Success. So it's not a secret. And I don't think it's unique to me.
If you can get the opportunity to go take a look at those full episodes or any of the others on the podcast, I think each of them has their own special value and have made this first season for me just a joy. And I am really looking forward to the next season. Like I said, it starts the first week of June. And my first guest of my second season is my other writing coach, Kimberly Stewart. It was a joy to record. And she is just, dear to my heart and will remain that way for the rest of my life. And so that one will drop the beginning of June. I will have, hopefully, that's the plan, some news in regard to my first book, Butterfly Stitches, as we go through the end of the year and definitely through the second season. So I'm looking forward to those episodes coming out and letting you get a sneak peek. And the potential, would love for any and all of you to be a part of my launch team when the time comes as well. So I just cannot thank you all enough, cannot thank my guests all enough for making this ride at 61 years old, the roller coaster and the tornado. And I'm hoping season 2, maybe we upgrade to a little bit of a hurricane. That smart aleck humor of mine. So I just really, truly want to thank you all for coming to class week in and week out and for giving me your feedback. Would really appreciate you going in and reviewing and rating so that I'm searchable and that the stories of my guests and my story can get a further reach. It would just bring me joy. So all the connection information is in the show notes. And I look forward to seeing you in season 2. And thanks for coming to class. Class dismissed.